So hello, hello. So here the connect with Ali, and we are here at New Brunswick Black History Society, and we are here to visit our friend Ralph Thomas to tell us a little bit about the center and all what's center about. Welcome to Connect with Ali's show on the road, and here with my friend Ralph, and we are joining New Brunswick Black History Society Center, and he's going to give us a tour and introduce us to this beautiful center.
Ali, it's good to have you, and thank you very much for thinking of us. We just want to show New Brunswick that there is a Black History Society Center now, and we're up and running. We hope to be collecting all the Black history from around the province, putting it together in one place. But in the beginning, we would like to do what you see here. We start out with St. John. As we know, some of the boats and ships that came here in the 1700s and the 1800s started here in St. John, and then people were dispatched out throughout New Brunswick. So what we're doing now is what we hoped. This is a 2-year stay in this area, maybe 3. And then when the new museums are built, we like to be a part of it. And that's some of the things that we're working on now with both levels of government.
Amazing. So what inspired you to start this or to be part of this, Ralph?
Well, I've always been interested in history, but my biggest push came when I was involved with King's Landing. And in King's Landing, they had built a house that was called the Gordon House. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that a black loyalist had built his own house. So therefore, that was one of the first things, or a first connection with black history, depicting a black family who had their own house. Mm-hmm. And that was when really my heart and mind opened up to, well, what else is going on in the province of New Brunswick that we don't know about and the rest of New Brunswickers don't know about. So that was the start, and that was 2009.
...2009, and look at that. Now we are 2021, and look at this. There is a center, and there is all the history here, and we want more. So, my friend Ralph, like, what do you want to say to the community about this? Like, I know, like, we are all diverse community that we build each other. We built Canada, and we built New Brunswick, and the Black community. We want people to know more about this. So, what's the mission? Your mission, that's for us.
Well, our mission really is to tell people we want to collect. The mission says we collect all the information about Black history. We put it together, we record it, we put it wherever people can find it, whether it be museums, whether it be in the library, whether it be in a center like this. As you are aware, there is no huge Black history center in the province of New Brunswick. This is a start, and with this we want to go from what you see now to go and end up in a museum, whether it be the New Brunswick Museum or whether it be a building that we call our museum, but we have to have our history told. And yes, diversity started in the 1700s. When I take you around the tour, you will see what I'm talking about. And you know, an hour from here, diversity started when the Quakers and the black folks came together and lived in harmony.
So here we have, I have a dream, Martin Luther King, and Martin Luther King said once, darkness cannot drive darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive hate, only love can do that.
That's
and with what's going on, like in the community and Black Lives Matters and what happened in the state as well, all that happened because people don't understand different race, or they don't open to understand. So what we have in this museum is just sharing the culture, and when people understand it, you're really open to be part of it.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit more about this figure, Martin Luther, and we'll carry on.
Well, we'll come back to Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream, you will see throughout this area as we're going to take a little tour. You will see some of the people who decided the phrase, I have a dream, they lived that, and they made it happen, even in little old St. John, New Brunswick. But they had the dream, and you will see some of the folks as we go on tour that I guess you would call it they did not want to settle for. They wanted to do what they wanted to do to help build their province and Canada. So we start out with our mission statement, and our mission statement is very upfront and simple. The Black History Society is dedicated to research, analysis, documentations, and the preservation of New Brunswick Black history. As we go along and we take our stroll, you will see the Atlantic slave trade. And the Atlantic slave trade started in the 1400s. You know, 1492 is when we started to realize that people came from Africa. And I won't get into a long detail. I want the people to come down and have a chance to see how crowded the ship was and where they came from. All right, the migration of Loyalists to New Brunswick, it's explained very well. What percentages came out of the United States and where from the United States is listed as you see the origins of New Brunswick Loyalists. You will see a picture of the Loyalists that we would see, because we're going to tell you the story of the Loyalists that we know about right here in the province. Landing of New Brunswick Black Loyalists. That's the other question that's asked quite often.
It's in the 1700s.
Where? Yeah, they came here in 1783 and before. We don't have all the information, but as we keep collecting and building, we will have all the information. These are some of the areas that they lived, some of the communities that they started. The great river of St. John waters was some of the offspring, because they would all come up St. John River or come by way of Nova Scotia. This used to be Nova Scotia here in 1783. By 1784, we were a province of New Brunswick, and away history started. As we come around the corner, the question is always asked, who were the Black Loyalists? We then get a chance to explain that to people. They came from all areas, and the Black Loyalists were most of them were slaves when they got here, the same as the refugees, and from there they grew. But they didn't grow equally like we're practicing today when people come together. Diversity is bringing us together, and hopefully with more concern than, oh, who's he and why is he here and he's going to take my land. They don't worry about that. We don't worry about that anymore. We want to come together.
As one.
Yes. So, you know, when I say, who were the Black Loyalists? How did they come? We often think of Loyalists as white folks. And black folks came with the white folks. And most of them, we're sorry to say, were either servants or slaves. The soft sell as servants.
Okay.
The real stories, and most times, were they were still slaves. They had to commit to their masters, and you know, we don't believe in that. Never did. And all of a sudden, we're finding our way out. But the exciting part was in 1783, as you read here, who were the Quakers? The Quakers were the people who came with black folks on the ship called the Camel, and they brought black folks with them, and they let the black folks work with them in making decisions in their community the same as anybody else. In fact, this group of people that you see there on the table were the people who stood up and said, no slave masters admitted to this community. So that was the beginning, and that is only 1 hour away from St. John. So we were starting to work on diversity, I think, back in the 1783s when we talk about the Quakers.
Okay.
And the people who wanted to treat everybody equal, whether it be black people or poor people. The abolition started, and the way it went, it's just that it took a long time for us to get to the point where we feel we're being treated equally. Black settlements, where were they? They were in Willow Grove, they were in Fredericton, they were in Grand Bay, Westfield, they were in Beaver Harbor. The story about Beaver Harbor can be told once the people come to the center. As you see in that picture board there, it shows us all coming together to have a meeting.
So everything is explained here, Ralph, like with picture. Everything explained with picture and history, and it's amazing. It's big, so people can have like a diversity and really learn from the beginning how all the black people landed in Nova Scotia and how come to New Brunswick.
Yeah, they came, they landed in Nova Scotia in greater numbers than they did in New Brunswick, but New Brunswick still has his black history, and some of it is different than that of Nova Scotia, but the numbers of people coming to Nova Scotia is far greater. They have a wonderful history, and they've got all kinds of buildings and places that will tell their story, and it's a wonderful, it's a wonderful opportunity to go to their places because you learn so much as well. But little did they know that our little New Brunswick has a lot of black history to be told, and some outstanding people who helped build the province and helped build Canada. So we go from loyalists to refugees, and the refugees, most of them were slaves when they came to these parts. In other words, they would have come from the United States as slaves, and they would have been used to having everything set up for them. When they got up in the morning, they knew they had to work the fields, or they had to work the house, or they had to work wherever their so-called masters would tell them to do and go. Okay. So just imagine being taken out of that comfort zone, as bad as it was, and put into another extreme condition, coming to Canada with the way that the weather and the cold and all the things that happens all of a sudden. So they are people who deserves an awful lot of credit of their perseverance, their sticking to itness. It's just unbelievable how they survived that time. And in that time of the 1800s, we're talking back there when we speak refugees, 1812, 1815, and the British made a commitment to the black folks that if they fought with them against the Americans, they would find a freedom sort of thing, the place to develop their own communities, their own homes, their own cities. But it took a long time for that to develop. When they got here, it wasn't ready like it's supposed to have been. I don't want to give everybody too much information because we want them to come. But Underground Railroad, you can see some of the pictures there. The picture boards explains how people came in crates.
That's all the way from in the boat from the state to Canada.
States to get to Canada, because this is where the freedom was, in Canada, supposedly.
Some probably made it, some not in those.
Some probably not. It's the same as us coming when you see the Atlantic slave trade. You know how many never made it to any land. But getting back to the Underground Railroad, it was another system. We always remembered being told what little black information we got or black history we got. We've always been told about Harriet Truman and how Tubman, she came to the force when she helped people go to safety or go to the free land, as it was told. And all the other folks that came, and then we knew only we knew about was Harriet Tubman. But look at all the numbers that helped us get to the level where we had to be in freedom. So your conductors and your agents in God's secret service was all on that banner. Imagine the faith they would have to rely on some of these people who said, here's a place to go, and it will be yours, and you'll be free. You know, imagine the faith in the people they had, and then the faith that they could do it, and all the hard work to get there. Underground Railroad again, as I think you had mentioned when you came in this morning, that you remember the stories about the church that was in Maine, and people would hide under the floorboards of the church, and the slave catchers would come and look and see if there were some people hid there, and they wouldn't see anybody, so to be on their way to the next place they thought people might be. And that's a part of the history when you go every October about the hike that Joe G puts on every year in Perth Andover. So that's a story by itself, and it's a real good hour and a half, 2 hours, because as you can see, you see the wilderness of people traveling, and then you see the lake where they were supposed to go, because in that was the next place for them to stop, rest, and then travel on to the other parts of New Brunswick. So you see a lot of things. I won't name some of the buildings that have been built by Joe G, but you know, you see the number one house there is a pit house, but they have built other things that people should see. So that's some of the struggle, and a little brighter light, but still it talks about runaway slaves. So runaway slaves came to St. John in 1850, probably before. We don't have all the information yet, but we're getting there. But you take people like Cornelius Sparrow came to these parts from Virginia. He came to these parts at a time when they weren't allowed out after dark. They weren't allowed to have their own business. They weren't allowed to do a whole lot of things unless it was okayed by a white person of authority that would go to bat for them and say, yes, it's all right, he's a person that can be safe, you can be safe with, or you don't have to worry about anything. And then to get permission from these people. But Cornelius Sparrow proved a point early in the 1800s, he proved that people, if you show people how to improve your standards, like if I can show you how to make an extra $1,000 a week, would you not be interested? And yes, they would.
Yeah, for sure.
And right off the bat, I'm thinking, and I don't know whether it's in writing or not, but I'm thinking he showed people how to make an extra dollar because he could do the fancy foods, and he could do what you do with fish in places like Mississippi and Alabama and all those places now where you go to visit, and how extreme those meals are and the way they cook things. He brought that in the 1800s to a little place like St. John. So if I may, I'm going to go over to this and show you that he came to these parts in St. John. He spent 5 years working as a laborer. In that time, he developed the Victoria Dining Saloon. He developed the place, restaurant for ladies and gents. And up top, it was a hairdressing place. He developed that. He was also one of the biggest developers in the city. And I'll leave that open because when people come in, they'll get the rest of the story. But another little bit for people to hang on to and remember is in that time, Cornelius Sparrow sold part of the businesses that he got involved in as he grew, and one of the other businesses was the ice business. So he supplied ice to this community and surrounding areas in abundance. He had a lot of ice being taken out to communities, being given to factories and the whole 9 yards. He sold it to a man. That man passed away, and his wife took that business over and made it a success story. But you have to come and see how she did that. Now, can you imagine a woman who was not respected in the first place in those times, and then you top that with her being a black lady, and she took over a business and had to work with white people working for her and black people working for her. Imagine how tough that would have been.
Everything against her, and she made it work.
She made it work. So,
Resilience.
I'm not getting too heavy into that, but that's a major story for people to come and see and read about. Most people know about our war veterans. Our poor war veterans had to fight to join the army to fight for their country.
Or in the 1900s now, Ralph.
Yeah, we're starting to move along. But even then, it wasn't. You know, we're looking at 1916 and those times in the 1800s alone was giving us enough trouble. But now in the 90s, we're still denied the fact that we can go and fight for our own country. They sent us to the front line with picks and shovels, as that banner tells you. Picture book, I should tell you, the picture boards. They tell us the story of how they go, and they show us the pictures. So going to the front line with picks and shovels to dig the trenches for the other soldiers. They grew out of that. And these, I'm not getting too heavy into that, but a lot of St. John's, a lot of New Brunswickers, and a lot of Americans fought in that war, the number 2 construction.
Prejudice was one of the enemy for black soldiers.
Yes, you know, there's 2 things happened there. Give them a chance to fight for their country, what they wanted to do in the first place, and it also gave them some income so they could feed their families. Black stamp depicting a black person or persons. And it's a long time coming. We had some questions about who should be honored first. Was it the first person that went to university? Was it the first doctor? Was it the first lawyer? No, it was the people, ordinary people who came to these parts and built our community. That's how our history started in Willow Grove. And they went through tough times, as people will see how barren the land was, how small the acreage was given to them as compared to their next door neighbors. 50 acres to them that they couldn't work. 100 acres, 200 acres, 300 acres was given to the white folks. Those were the times, bad times, tough times for black people. But as you see in that sign, and people will come and learn more, the struggle. Everybody had a struggle. You know, that came to these parts in the early times. If you were a loyalist, you would have struggles. If you were Irish, you had struggles. If you were French, you had a struggle, because people didn't take to you right away like they do today. Refugees come today, and we talk about diversity. Diversity started, we realize, around here, but now we're getting serious about it. So this is another story about King's Landing sharing their stories with us. We all work together in the province of New Brunswick. And King's Landing, who is beyond Fredericton a bit, an hour away from Fredericton, and they have their own black stories to tell about the loyalists that came, the refugees that came. And as we walk around the room, we go across here. Shows again that how King's Landing talks about George Leake in the Leake Taylor collection that they have. Okay. And in the beginning I talked about the Gordon House, and you will see that over in the corner to the left. And as we go around, we get a little closer. But really, the Gordon House story, as we're doing this story now, on August the 1st, we, as New Brunswick Black History Society, will be in the Gordon House, and we will be in the Macbeth area in King's Landing to talk about emancipation. Okay. And that will be another part of King's Landing getting on side and telling the Black history story along with the rest of the stories that they tell. They do a great job in promoting and showing all history.
All the history.
Yeah.
Amazing. And do you know, like Ralph, like the first African Canadian that landed in New Brunswick? Do you have ideas?
We are told that Matthew DaCosta was the first, and then we were told of another black individual, and I don't have his name right in front of me now, but another black person that came here in the beginning. But what we know about is we know about how Matthew DaCosta came with Champlain.
Okay.
And Matthew DaCosta was the guy that connected Champlain with the First Nation people.
Okay.
And he was a linguistic, so that meant he may have come to these parts a lot earlier than Champlain to talk with the First Nations. And then by the time Champlain came, they could communicate back and forth about what they were going to do to help each other. How that worked out, history tells us. Africa is the home of my ancestors and many others who are in the province of New Brunswick, and it starts there. But we tell you the stories as you come in and what happened in this part of the world. And you know, look at the artifacts that was donated to us by people, by everybody, black people, white people. They all donate now, and they all show us some things that we've never even seen before. And how it was built from Mother Earth compared to how things are just bought off a shelf.
Yeah.
I know we're stretching it when we say that, but really, this is how things began.
Amazing, amazing. It's really great work, and you guys put a lot of work to make this to come to life.
Yeah.
Congratulations for having this center, and the community will benefit a lot from this to learn the history.
Well, it's my pleasure, indeed, and I thank you for coming down from Moncton. And I'm glad we met 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you remembered us and seeing what we were doing in the New Brunswick Black History Society. So we really appreciate all the help we can get to tell our story and let people know, hey, we've got some history to show you now. So that's wonderful.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Ralph, again for having us. And next question is there any plan in the future to see other locations in New Brunswick that will feature Black history culture?
Yeah, our plans are, and we've been talking to both levels of government, whether it be here, St. John, and the province of New Brunswick, and we've been talking to the folks, and they're very interested in Black history as they are everything else that goes on in our province. What the dream is and what the plan is that we will be here for a couple of years, maybe 3. And then we hope to move on in a space supplied to us by the New Brunswick Museum. And we hope by then there's going to be a new place, a new home for the museum, and we want to be a part of it. So we've talked about it openly, and they've come and seen what's here, and as you see on the wall, we had the grand opening, and we had some of the officials here that helped us get to where we are. So, you know, it's not just only the governments and the 2 levels that help us to do what we do, but we have other folks that come to the table as well. And whether it be a fundraiser or whether it be just people interested, like, you know, we have Sisters of Charity, for example, the wonderful people, wonderful ladies who wants to know everything going on in the community and how can they help. And that's marvelous. So that's just one of the people that comes to the table with us. Some of our things, you say what we dream of in the future, what is our plans? You know, one of our dreams came true not too long ago when they took A.B. Walker and finally give him a headstone to recognize that he was here and that he did make a difference when he spoke out against people holding him down because of the color of his skin. A.B. Walker was studied to be a lawyer. Of course, he couldn't do that here, so he went to the United States. He studied, got all the things that he had to do to become an outstanding lawyer. And then he went to Fredericton to study in the university there, did that. And then when he came back to St. John in order to practice and do the things he did, and probably one of the sharpest when you read his story, we have his book, you know, Peter Little wrote the book about A.B. Walker, and it's just a fantastic story of really, I guess, how you would describe him, he would be our early Martin Luther King, because he stood up against the odds when they wouldn't work with him because of his color. They wouldn't hire him because of his color. So he did whatever was next to I guess, bring up a family. He had a family. He had lodging to take care of and everything, same as everybody else. So he did things working in the courthouse, but they wouldn't let him practice. So those are some of the stories. And as you see, we have gone so far, and I say we, Peter Little again was the guy that said, I want to dig deeper and find out about A.B. Walker. He did that. And, because of that effort by the Black History Society, and Peter really was the one that got into the trenches and dug out the true story of him. And, with that effort, he became a member of the Order of New Brunswick. He's got a new headstone, like I just said, because of the law firm in the city of St. John.
He never gave up. Resilience.
His spirit is still working with us here, and getting into the minds of people to say, hey, that was wrong and we want to correct it. So that's one of the stories that's going on. The biggest story is the fact that we have a place. We compare ourselves with the rest of other provinces in Canada, and we are way behind. So with this, it's a start, and we enjoy. The big thing is, with the Black History Society, we want all the people that's connected with the society to bring their stories. And whether it be in Moncton, or whether it be in Fredericton, or whether it be in St. John, let's get our stories all together. Let's have places like this at those centers, and let's get the job done so that we can move into the new New Brunswick Museum when it's built.
Well, I love what all you are doing, and the ripple effort already started, and we would love to have something in Moncton as well. And I really love the story of Mr. Walker and how he was refused because of his color. And lately what happened in the state, which was like the Black Lives Matter, how do you feel about what happened, and how the world refused George Floyd? That's just a big...
It's just a heart-wrencher as to George Floyd. We all watched it. The world watched it on TV where, members of our police force in that case took the life right before our eyes, and took that life because they had no concern about that person. That was a person that they actually killed right in front of all of us. And the whole world came on side when we said Black Lives Matter. We have a Black Lives Matter in St. John. We have a Black Lives Matter organization in Moncton, and they stand up with George Floyd when he passed away. It took a man to die before an action plan came that we have to be still treated equal. We have to still get rid of the negatives, all the discrimination that's behind the scenes. In the workplace, in the schools, in this and that. Now, we can rightfully say that the schools now are doing what they have to do to make things happen properly, and we've been working with them for 8 or 9 years now. But there used to be a time we weren't allowed to go near the place. Nobody of authority at school level would talk to us even about racism and discrimination. Now, it's non-stop. The phone never stops. And that has happened over, the last 6 years, especially as we can't keep up with their demand. They want us to go to the schools. They want us to go to businesses. They want us to do things. But it took Black Lives Matter to open the door of another movement that's going to correct discrimination and racism in the workplace and any other place where there's groups of people and we're shunned because of the color of our skin.
Well, I'm really proud of all you are doing, because racism, discrimination, judgment, and hate those are tough topics to talk about. And I'm really happy that you're sharing that with schools, because all start at school with children. Because when they grow with that, they are the leader of the future. And when we see that being shared, because most of the parents, when their children ask them a question, don't talk about that.
Yep.
Don't say that. They already putting in their head that's something big. It's a tough topic. Don't talk about it.
That's
But
right.
when they start an early age, they become open. If they
Yep.
see something, they stand against it. If they say somebody hates somebody or see racism, they will stop it right away. And that's what we want. We don't want till something happened, then we all come out and say that shouldn't happen and stuff like that.
Yeah. We got to have a plan of action. And I think Black Lives Matter has a plan. The New Brunswick Black History has a plan that will show where we came from and where we're going forward to. And how are we going to get there? We need the help of everybody in our community, whether it's the province of New Brunswick, whether it's Canada. We got to show the rest of the world that we will come together as one, and we will do the things that will take away the evil side of discrimination and racism. And I think, you know, we look at young
Take
Mark,
time.
and we look at everybody trying to help out there. That's a good thing. We look at young Matthew Martin. He's a youngster, and if he can make these things right without a whole lot of crazy stuff going on that sets us back, you know, he's really doing a good job. So we'll work with him as long as he does things that's going to help our community and the community as a whole.
It's amazing, amazing. There is always light if we are brave enough to see it, as Amanda Gorman said. So there is light, there is love, there is everything. So now will bring us to the last part of our show, my friend. In 2 words or 3 words, what do you say, or what does prejudice mean to you?
Prejudice is one of the craziest things that I've ever heard tell of in my life. Why would you be prejudiced against making your community be a success story? And people say, I don't like this person, I don't like that person. You know, that is the worst hunk of garbage that I've ever heard tell of in my lifetime. Try to work with your neighbors, because guess what? When the dust settles, both of you win.
100%.
So 2 words, both people will win if they deny the thought of being prejudiced.
Darkness.
Darkness is always around. You know, you're not going to beat darkness by us doing what we have to do to show that we've been here for a reason. Here's the reason. But darkness will always be around, and if we're working together, we can fight it a lot easier than we can if we're going to be a single unity. You know, we can't be by ourselves and hope to win. It's like Martin Luther King said, together we will win. Divided is going to take us a long time. So the darkness keeps us divided.
100%. We don't want
And it's
that.
going to take too much time to try and recoup. And darkness spreads. So we got to shine the light.
I love it.
We got to shine the light.
Shine the light, and you
Yeah.
are doing it, my friend. You are starting the ripple effect, and you are spreading the light and the love. Hate.
Hate is one of the worst things, again, that you could ever muster, and it's something that always there. You know, we're sorry to say that, and it's sad to say that, but there's people who really hate one another. And until we change that one person at a time, we'll win. But if we don't keep trying and keep fighting against hate, prejudice, discrimination, all those things, because they come together and they cause hate. When you look at the people on TV and see these idiots hollering and screeching at our people, yours and mine, hauling and calling us names, and they hate. The heart has been, I don't know how you describe it, really, but the heart is so evil, it can stand up in front of another human being and use foul language and use nasty names to degrade them. And they're the ones, really, that's showing poor, very poor example to their families.
100%. 100%.
It's I can't understand it, really.
Racism, last one.
Racism is still going to be with us for a while. I don't think you're going to snap your finger and you're going to make it change, but we can make it stop one person at a time, like we talked about as we walked around. And everybody knows that if you talk to people, I've had people talk to me that's used to using the N-word, for example, and immediately I say the thing, hey, listen, if you and I are going to keep talking about this subject, you have to fix your vocabulary so that we can do it. If not, we can no longer talk to one another. And when that happens, it's surprising, but I'm not banging tables and we're not fighting with each other or hollering. We're just talking, hey, I wish you would never say that again in front of me. You take, out of 10 people, 8 people will agree with you. Yes, we shouldn't use the N-word. We shouldn't have been using the N-word. We understand now how it hurts you, how it hurts students to even talk about it. Now, thank God, students is coming around. The youth is coming around with, they won't settle for that. You know, they're not going to put up with anybody using garbage or doing things that's going to hurt them moving forward.
Love what you are saying, my friend. And time is up. We need to take action. What happened in the state with George Floyd and what happened in Ontario with all those Muslims, because you were dressed up, because you are different. You were killed for their dress, for their religion, because Muslim. I will finish with what my mother used to say: always choose love over hate, and light over darkness, and compassion over judgment.
Yes.
And that's the message we'd like to finish with. We are all into this together, and we need to stand up for what is right. Hate, darkness is all start with us. We have to stop it. We have to stand up and refuse it. My friend Ralph,
That's right.
thank you very much.
Hey.
It was an amazing.
My pleasure.
And
Thank you for
enlighten
coming.
us. We will come again. We will send people. It's just an amazing place, and we need to educate ourselves. It's all about education.
That's right.
Thank you very much, and
Right.
have a good day. Thank you.